Hey everyone, how's it going? We just got the closing bell for Wednesday, August 28th. Now, it was a pretty exciting day where most of the day we were very directional. We're going down quite a bit as far as 555. And then in the last hour, we suddenly got this surge upwards and we closed about 558. So we can see that even though it looked very directional during the day, even if we had closed at the lows, we would still call that sideways movement. We'd just be near where we closed this past Thursday. So it still wasn't that significant, even if we had closed down there. But the fact that we closed back up near 558 brought us back to the EMA 8. And obviously, that's just more chop sideways. And we do want to note that our volume today was still very, very low. By the time we get in all the dark pool stuff, we'll probably be very close to where we were yesterday with 32.7 million. So still very low. That could change tomorrow with the NVIDIA reporting tonight or in a few minutes, actually. And then with the GDP coming out. And so we'll see. We'll see if that brings volume back or if institutions are just taking a snoozer and on vacation with Labor Day weekend coming up. So what's interesting though is if we don't get that volatility or the volume back into the markets in the next couple of days, then we go into a holiday weekend and then we go into a shortened week this next week. So that could mean that we just keep on chopping sideways. So we might not get directional here. It's really just kind of depends on how this market reacts to NVIDIA. There was a lot of movement today, a wider movement than normal. Our VIX was pretty active. It traded as high as 17.89 and we closed at 17.17. So our VIX is elevated even with the recovery in the last hour. Our VIX is still pretty elevated. So I think we're just really going to want to see what that NVIDIA, how that trades and whether or not that is going to have an effect that bleeds into the wider markets. Let's look at QQQ. QQQ came in and broke the MA50. That's pretty significant. And even with the recovery, we're just at the EMA 20. So again, everything I said about the risk to the downside being greater than the risk to the upside, it still applies. And we'll just see. We'll just see how everything plays out. SMH very much sideways, holding at that VWAP letter, quarterly. I believe that's the quarterly VWAP level. And then IWM, directional down to the EMA 8, and Dow Jones, kind of sideways. And what was interesting though is the sectors. Today, for most of the day, our defense sector was leading to the upside, but it turns out that what is this one? XLF kind of took over towards the end, and we saw a lot of activity in this right here, which was gold. Gold saw better activity during the day. Is that right? Let me make sure I'm getting. Yeah, I guess it kind of recovered. I guess it's flat. So you can see that gold, or no, sorry, not flat to yesterday's open. So we're just down 0.71%. I guess the S&P 500 is down 0.58%. So I might have caught the wrong. No, that's gold. Yeah, gold on a relative basis, I guess just on the day did okay. And then SMH was really leading the way down, especially earlier in the day. And then it kind of finished closer to the crowd. So we can see in the last hour, let's just look at the last hour. Okay. So in the last hour, home builders really came down, and then our financials made it all the way up. Okay, so that's really interesting. So Right now, we're probably going to want to focus if we do, even after the NVIDIA earnings and GDP, we're probably going to want to focus on the sectors that were able to make it above these recent bounce back highs and even the all-time highs. Those are your best bets. Those are the ones that are not being dragged down by the SMH. So if I look at utilities, maybe a little bit of a pullback to the EMA8, flattened out over the last couple of days, but still looking very strong. And I guess matching these highs over here. And then we have our XLP, which is looking excellent. Just a little bit of a pullback to the EMA8 or mean reversion to the EMA8. Still looking really good. XLF, same thing, except stronger. It was still up today. That's looking very, very good. And I think real estate flattened out, so I wouldn't include real estate in that. So XLF, XLP, XLU, those are the ones that we really want to focus on, even after all of this NVIDIA business is over. So let me see. Let's see if NVIDIA reported yet. And if not, then we'll take a look at a broader market and then come back and see what NVIDIA is doing. Okay, so not quite yet. Okay, so we'll revisit that. Let's take a look at our bonds. Bonds flat, CPC at a normal level. Let's take a look at our momentum. So we'll do that over here, momentum. 90-day highs. Okay. So remember the last couple of days we said that, or actually I think it was Friday, we had 496. I said that's an extreme level. We expect the market to pull back at least a little bit. Or sometimes consolidate. In this case, it went down to 288, 227. Now we're at 137. That's about what we would expect if we were looking at all the potential catalysts of NVIDIA earnings and GDP. So over the last week, SPY just chopped sideways. Higher volatility chopped sideways, and that is now resolved. So we didn't get quite a big pullback or a mean reversion, but that consolidation did the same job as resolving that. So right now we're not having a whole lot of momentum bias, still slightly to the positive side, but not a whole lot. Let's take a quick look at our sectors. I just want to see on a wider basis, on the average and on the monthly, see how we're looking. So SMH still doing very well. Gold and silver still at the top. We've got utilities and home builders right up there with SMH. So there's really is a mixed bag over here at defense, XLF, XRE, XLP. So we have a mix of defense sectors, but the SMH is still up there. So basically it's telling us be careful, just be cautious, especially since we see mostly defensive sectors towards that top. That's on an average basis. If we look at the past month, then even more so, real estate, utilities, gold, staples, and then we have this oddball outlier of communications and then healthcare. So it's still defensive sectors. And then we already saw it today, but I might as well take a quick look. Defense. So remember, this is a little bit delayed. So this might not be 100% accurate, but at least we get a feel for it. It should be pretty close to the final results. So defense sector, financials, utilities, healthcare. So all defensive sectors. And if we look at, say, Colgate Palmolive, you can see that has been doing very well. Coca-Cola, staple type of stocks. Those are the ones that are doing really well right now. Maybe a utility. It's probably not the best. PCG. There you go, PCG. So that's a utility stock. And then what was there? We're looking at financials. So JP Morgan still looking very good. Goldman Sachs, not as good, but so financial. So if we stuck with these, we'd be doing okay. Whereas if we were in NVIDIA, that's just chopped sideways into it, chop sideways after coming far. That was a earnings reaction. Intel, right, sideways, but looking very negative. AMAT, not looking that great, looking like it is very bearish. MU was a bearish stock that I was looking at. If we didn't have NVIDIA earnings, I would have gone into, I actually did go a very small position into Micron, just with NVIDIA and having already hedges and tail risk trades in place. It's just adding to the same category of risk. So I only took a very baby trade in that. So you can see that it just doesn't look like, tech just doesn't look like it's doing all that well. It's just kind of sideways. So we'll see if NVIDIA earnings can rescue that. But the upside, if NVIDIA does amazingly well, let's put it this way, if NVIDIA does amazingly well, the implied move is about 14. So if we go up to 140, let's just say, 140, all we're doing is matching the previous high right here, the all-time high. So does that mean the SPY then goes and matches its all-time high? Well, the NVIDIA is, let's see, NVIDIA is, sorry, no, I need the SPY. Constituents. NVIDIA is 6.58%. So if we move up, if NVIDIA moves 14, so let's call it a little over 10%, then we would expect a SPY overall effect of 6% on that 10%, 0.6%. So we're basically not going to move the S&P. The 0.6% is what we got the move to the downside today on the S&P. So basically what would it do? Just bring us right back to where we closed yesterday. So is NVIDIA the answer to a bullish S&P 500? The answer is no. QQQ, same thing. Maybe it gets us up to here because it'd be a much more significant percentage of the QQQ, but it's not going to bring us all the way up to here. Whereas to the downside, all it has to do is come down and drag a whole bunch of other stocks with it, and then we could start. So what'll happen is we'll see that we break below this EMA 20, and institutions go, we're below the MA 50, we're below the EMA 20. Let's start shorting the QQQ. Whereas if we trade up to this level, institutions don't go, hey, we're at these great levels now, let's keep on buying the QQQ. You see that? So there's that extra downside risk, which is why we were talking about tail risk hedges and hedges, tail risk trades and hedges over the last couple of days. So let's see, hopefully we got something, or maybe we're just a couple minutes away from NVIDIA. When are you gonna? Yeah, it doesn't look like it might not happen until another 7 minutes. Okay. So I might just have to wait and comment on this tomorrow morning. By then, obviously, we'll know what the results are and we'll have traded a little bit in the morning. So what you'll want to look out for is whether or not we have volume coming in tomorrow morning, especially with the GDP report. You'll want to see the reaction to the GDP report that's coming in pre-market, I believe. Yeah, pre-market, 5:30. So you'll want to see the reaction pre-market. See, does it pop up? Does it pop down? And then we want to see how the market opens and whether we start trending up or down like this morning when we came in. You can see that we started out, we just went down and then we traded up, went down. We kind of chopped sideways for a while, but you could see that these highs were getting lower and lower. even though the lows were staying about the same. And then finally, we broke to the downside. You're going to want to see some sort of directional bias similar to what we saw this morning. If you want to day trade, NVIDIA might be a good stock to day trade because it'll be getting a lot of attention on a lot of volume. And that even if you don't get a lot of directionality, you could get these swings back and forth quite a bit. So that's where I'd be directing my focus tomorrow morning. That's probably where most institutions and the ones that day trade, like prop firms, for example, or certain types of hedge funds might be day trading. So that their attention is going to be on stocks like NVIDIA that have a whole bunch of volume or related ones. Another one that hit the news today was SMCI. With this big move downwards, they had some sort of report, some sort of doom and gloom report come out, and then a question as to whether their accounting practices were sound, or if they were cheating on their accounting or not. And so you got this big surge, huge volume downwards. It was I actually was short SMCI until yesterday. So I did not get the benefit of this move downward today, but I did catch this move down over here. But in any case, this is also in the AI or realm. So this could be having an effect where this could be traded pretty heavily tomorrow as well. So you could direct your attention over there if you wanted to day trade as well. So let's take a look. Let's see last minute if there's anything going on in NVIDIA yet. And not yet. So we'll just have to wait until, so you can keep watching it if you're interested, and then I'll comment on it tomorrow morning. Hey, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.